Salam world, I'm your shorter than average girl from down under, and today we're going to be looking at the universally acclaimed 2017 Disney-Pixar movie, Coco. Coco. I think like many others, I think it's a top-notch movie. Probably the best movie to come out of Disney for the 2010s, tied with Big Hero 6. And I mean, that's not too surprising given that they both focus on the same theme, albeit in different ways, family. Family movies just hit different. And Coco? Well, Coco makes me cry. Oh, it's so beautiful. What an absolutely stunning story. And the colors, animation, music, the feels. Honestly, couldn't think of a better way to tell a story about a child learning the value of family. By killing them temporarily and but in all seriousness, Coco tells a very simple story based on a culture which truly manifests the ideals of the message, making the takeaway experience feel genuine. So if you're only here for the movie review, you can click forward to the time shown on the screen right now or the timestamp in the description, whichever suits you best. But for now, let's talk story. The story of 12-year-old Miguel, the youngest member of the Rivera family. The family wants Miguel to join the family business, but Miguel has his eyes set out on following his idol, Ernesto de la Cruz, and becoming a musician. But that's a no for the Rivera family, because Miguel's great-great-grandfather abandoned the family to pursue a career in music. And so the whole family has vowed,
no music! No music! No music!
Yeah. So on the night of Dia de los Muertos, Miguel abandons his family for a shot at a local talent show, stealing the guitar of Ernesto de la Cruz for his performance, but accidentally gets transported to the land of the dead. He finds out that the only way to return back to the land of the living is by getting the blessing of his family, which his family gladly gives, with one condition: he cannot play music again. No. So based off the half photo of his great-great-grandfather they have on the ofrenda, and the guitar that he stole from Ernesto de la Cruz's grave, he figures out that Ernesto de la Cruz is his estranged family. If his actual family right here wasn't gonna let him play music, then he's gonna find the only family member who will. On the way, Miguel finds a poor lost soul named Hector, a man who tries to cross to the land of the living each year just to visit his daughter. But given that his photo is never put up on any ofrenda, he's never able to cross. But Hector personally knows Ernesto. He was his musical partner back in the day, before Ernesto became a local celebrity. So they strike up a deal. Hector will take Miguel to find Ernesto to get back home, and all Miguel has to do is put Hector's photo on his ofrenda so that he can cross and see his daughter. Unfortunately for both of them, it turns out Ernesto isn't who they thought he was. And this is basically spoilers for the big plot twist of this movie. One day, when they were off on business, Hector really missed his wife and daughter, and so he decides to go back home. Ernesto didn't like this because it would jeopardize his musical prospects, and so decides to poison Hector, steal his music and his guitar, making an entire career out of it. So Hector is Miguel's real great-great-grandfather, not Ernesto. And now the whole family is reunited. The only thing left was to get Hector's photo back from Ernesto so that Miguel can go back and put the photo on the ofrenda so that Hector can come and visit his daughter Coco, Miguel's great-grandmother. But heartbreaking. Hector's just happy to have been reunited with his family and his wife and to have finally met Miguel. Everyone ends up giving their blessing to Miguel to return, no strings attached. But Miguel can't stand the thought of his great-great-grandfather Hector being forgotten for good. So he goes to his great-mother Coco and starts singing the song.
Remember me, though I have to say goodbye.
Which her father used to sing for her when she was little. And despite her Alzheimer's, she remembers her dad. And so the next year, she's reunited with her parents, and all the Riveras are together enjoying the family and Miguel's music. The end. Ah! So, of course, the holiday that this movie centers around is Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, a multi-day Latin American holiday which celebrates the life of late families and friends. The holiday itself has a mix of Aztec and Catholic roots, which both celebrate the dead. The Aztecs held festivals for their loved ones, which they knew the goddess Mecticasihuatl, and I hope I pronounced that right, would basically be at. Now, Mecticasihuatl is the goddess of the underworld and responsible for looking after the bones of the deceased, which the Aztecs believed were the source of life for the next world. So, to appease her, they would put offerings at their loved ones' graves to ensure their loved ones would have a good next life. Adorable, I know. And so when the conquistadors came to Mexico and forced the natives to convert to Christianity, they adopted most of these traditions from this festival for their celebration for All Hallowtide. Now, All Hallowtide is a Western Christian period to remember the righteous dead, saints, martyrs, and just the soul of faithful Christians. And these are commemorated consecutively, starting on Hallows Eve on the 31st of October, and then All Saints' Day on the 1st of November, and All Souls' Day on the 2nd. And if this sounds very familiar to another holiday, well, it should be, because Dia de los Muertos and Halloween, from a Christian perspective, celebrate the same thing, but in very, very different ways. And that all depends on the influence from the pagan cultures that they incorporated into them. Just looking at the evolution of these two different holidays critically, I personally think that Dia de los Muertos has stuck closer to the original intentions of the holiday rather than Halloween. I mean, what do we actually celebrate in Halloween? Nothing. It's just a time for us to act stupid, dress up, and make really bad decisions. Whereas Dia de los Muertos gives the celebrants time to remember those who they have loved and lost, and show gratitude for their contribution in their life, whilst wishing them the best in the land of the dead. It changes the somber view on death, which I think Halloween plays into a very lively and happy time, giving families and friends time to reflect on life and theoretically celebrate and share it with those who are going to come and visit them during that night. The beautification and glorification of death is a very powerful thing, as death is inevitable for all of us. But celebrating it instead of turning it into a fear, I think makes that reality a happy one. Death isn't something that we should be afraid of, but welcome it when the time comes.
He then greeted death as an old friend and went with him gladly, departing this life as equals.
You know I gotta put the Harry Potter reference in there. Because at the end of the day, for many, many people, death isn't the end, just a start to a new beginning. And I find that a profound thing to celebrate, as well as a very good platform to foster a healthy relationship with the inevitable reality of death. And speaking of platforms, Coco uses this holiday as a backdrop for a story celebrating family. So it's so fitting, because just as a child has inherent feelings towards death and loss, a child also has inherent feelings about family. And growing up is the ability to understand and guide those inherent feelings to allow someone to live happy, freely and under their own control, which are the main takeaways of this film. The film starts by outlining the rhetoric or values of the Rivera family, but we quickly see that Miguel doesn't agree to these set of values because he feels like they impede on his personal freedom, thus the capacity to actualize his personal potential. And so Miguel has this inner conflict, which most children have at one point in their life: curiosity, trial, and ambition versus shame, betrayal, and disappointment. A child's quick examination of the problem, given that they are new to the world and the risks that it brings. And I'm not just talking about like physical danger kind of risks, but also vulnerability and the emotive response, which, by the way, very ripe for kids. But yeah, they determine that the issue is the shackles of family rules, which consequently leads a child to resent aspects of their family's behavior. And it's not necessarily the whole family, but it can be limited to particular family members. And so the villain to their heroic arc is born, spun in the webs of the child's imagination. And now before we actually get to the adults, I just need to make a quick disclaimer. There are people in the world that are truly villains and do not deserve the title of parenthood, but unfortunately they decide to bring innocent children into the world. But we're not talking about those people here. We are talking about the actual good people who have the potential of being decent parents. Just keep that in mind. Now, the reality of the situation which the child's viewing is that the family, or the parents, have gone through experiences, generally painful ones, and so have created rules or restrictions to prevent the people that they love and care for from ever experiencing that kind of pain. Is it gonna stop pain from reaching the ones they love? No, of course not. And we can see that with Miguel and his pain for the guilt that he feels for enjoying music. But at the end, humans are limited, humans are imperfect, and so parents can't exactly predict every single consequence and potential pain that their child could ever go through, as well as trying their child not to feel the pain that they felt, but also at the same time teaching their kids about restraint and moral values so they don't become spoiled sissies. It's a crazy balance of things being a parent, and honestly, hats off for all those amazing parents around the world. But kids don't and can't understand that their parents aren't perfect. Parents spoil them from the start. That this is like a learning process for the parents as well as it is for the kids. And the reason for that is because they have grown up depending on their parents their entire life. They're meant to be there for you. You are their purpose. And so this is why resentment builds up in a child. Even if the child is selfless and unspoiled, like Miguel is, they feel entitled to their parents and their family's care and support. Not so much in the sense of, I deserve this and that, but more like,
Why can't you be on my side? That's what family's supposed to do. Support you. But you never will.
you see? And this is most true in the transitional phase between complete dependency and complete independency, which in this day and age, as well as the deteriorating economy, is a period longer than a decade for some. Boy, God help parents. Back to Coco now. Miguel fears to share his desires with his family because he fears the response. As a consequence of an emotional trauma which happened before his lifetime, some family members feel strongly about the subject, and so he's afraid of bringing it up. Now, should he have shared it with some of the family members less opposed or affected by it? He could have. But that would have still taken courage because it risks A, rejection from the least extreme member of the family, and the exposure of his betrayal of family values, and B, potentially compromising on some aspects of his dream to reach a common ground. And kids, well, they're not very good at accepting defeat and compromising. It's honestly easier and more childish to hold a grudge. And this grudge propels Miguel into an unforgettable adventure which will help him to understand the broken hearts of his family, which lead to the values that he has come to despise. And with understanding comes forgiveness and change. Not only on Miguel's behalf, but the rest of his family as well. And it's important to note, I think, that this movie doesn't claim some kind of like knowledge superiority of adults versus kids, but it highlights how these values were based on feelings which came out of mourning, and then a retrospective look on what happened in the past, which according to Nobel Prize winner Nassim Nicholas Taleb is the greatest form of ignorance, meaning that the rules weren't based off the objective truth, but a subjective one, with only Ernesto's confession revealing the reality, ultimately ending the reign of no longer justified values, and hopefully the start of a new one. Do not drink anything prepared by others or out of your line of sight. And I don't just mean alcohol. I mean everything. And so the movie sweetly plays out the basic cliche, the truth will set you free. But it's more than that. For Miguel, it allows him to conquer one of the milestones of maturity, gratitude. When a child truly understands the sacrifices adults make for them and appreciate how the sacrifice has played into their life, then they become grateful for it and in turn accept sacrificing themselves, not themselves, and to repay the unrepayable debt of the infinite sacrifice families make for one another. And this is a milestone Miguel reaches when he learns that his great-great-grandfather was murdered because he prioritized family over career. And even after death, all he wanted was to see his family again. Miguel realizes that his family is made up of broken people who have committed to sticking up for one another and use their broken pieces to add to the full mosaic of the Rivera family. And so the only reason music was banned was so that his great-grandmother Coco wouldn't have to deal with the pain of losing her father. The rule was all for the sake of Coco. Her mother Imelda sacrifices her love for music and what connected her to her husband so that Coco would eventually forget her father and the pain of losing him will slowly fade away. And the rest of the family kept up with this particular tradition. But now, for the sake of family, specifically his great-great-grandfather Hector, Miguel needs to play music. So Coco would remember her father so that he could stay reunited with his family. But all of this doesn't just happen, to allow Miguel to play music. Miguel actually reaches a point before then where he is content to stop playing music, a small sacrifice for his family. It's just so beautiful. A story about the strength of the family bond and about how understanding one another brings the bout of happiness, freedom, and content. Because family always want the best for all its members, no matter how broken the individual is. So if you haven't seen this movie as a child or an adult, you have to. I think it's a perfect modern classic, probably the Mulan of this new generation for old-timers like me. But instead of fighting in a war, it's about music. And there's a lot more tear-jerking moments in this movie.
Thought that you might have. But you.
They told me not to be like De La Cruz, but I didn't listen.
Hey, it's
I
okay.
told them I didn't care if they remembered me.
Coco. Where did you get this?
Family?
give her the biggest hug. But she's the last person who remembers me. The moment she's gone from the living world,
You disappear from this one.
I sing a secret song to you each night we are apart. Though I have to travel far, remember me. I wrote it for Coco. I'm a pretty sorry excuse for a great-great-grandpa.
Are you kidding? A minute ago I thought I was related to a murderer. I'm proud to be his family!
I'm proud to be his family! I'm running out of time. It's Coco.
She's forgetting you.
No, I can't leave you. I promised I'd put your photo up. I promised you'd see Coco.
We're both out of time, mijo.
Oh, no, she can't forget you.
I just wanted her to know that I loved her.
No, Papa Hector, please. No,
Go home.
I promise. I won't let Coco forget you.
What are you doing to that poor woman? It's okay, man.
What's gotten into you?
Though I have to say goodbye, remember me.
Poems he wrote me, and
Oops. No, in all seriousness though, this movie, although very, very simple, delivers the message of family very well. And it shows us the reality of many situations. There really isn't one person that you can point the finger at and blame them for all your problems in life. Because most of us aren't going to meet our Ernesto de la Cruz and expose his dirty secrets in our lifetime. But based on the knowledge that we have, we should try our best to do what's right by us and by everyone who's around us. And then when new information is revealed, well, things can change and we can adapt for the better together. That is the beautifully simple Coco. So if you want to watch this movie, please make sure to use a streaming platform that doesn't support the violation of human rights or the spread of negativity in the world. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on similar content in the future. Share this with your family members so that you can spread the love. And finally, be brave, be happy, and be kind, and we'll catch you all next time.